desde Las Vegas, Nevada. Iniciamos con el programa Hablando de bienes y raíces con Castillo y sus invitados. Comenzamos.
Vegas, my name is JC Castillo. We're starting here the show Hablando de bienes raíces con JC Castillo y sus invitados. Estamos aquí en el estudio de Equity Title. Estamos aquí una vez más hoy, Wednesday, September the 10th. Unbelievable how much the time is flying in. We have two wonderful guests here with us today. We're going to be talking about what's happening in the mortgage industry, what's happening in the real estate industry. We are going to get started, and I am going to go ahead and introduce my good friend Elda. Elda, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, JC. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. And also we have here in the studio Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good, JC. Nice to see you guys.
Perfect. So Elda and Mike, if you guys don't mind giving us your name, your last name, what company you work for, how long you've been in the industry, so like that the people will get to know you. I would really appreciate that. Go ahead, Elda, please.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So my name is Elda Monarres. I'm here with Keller Williams Realty. I've been in the industry almost 2 years now, so I have all the passion and strength to fight for my people and, figure out the best way to get them to own a home in the best way possible.
Awesome. And also we have here with us Mike. Mike, if you again want to let us know.
Yes, my name is Mike Larosco. I've been here doing loans as a mortgage broker for 13 years. It's always fun to work with new home buyers, so I'm excited to teach them kind of the ins and outs here once we get into it.
Perfect. So right now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. Interest rates.
Interest rates, yeah.
Everybody's talking about interest rate, even though my point of view is interest rate should not matter. What matters should be can you afford the payment.
Yeah. Qualifying and being able to maintain that house for a long period of time.
Being able to maintain the payment. So in your expertise doing loans for 13 years, you've seen the interest rate go up and down.
Up and down, yeah.
And everybody's speculating that the interest rate is going to be dropped sometime next week.
Yes, there's a lot of pressure on the Fed right now.
Yes.
So they're expecting Jerome Powell to drop interest rates 1/4 to 0.5%. No one knows for sure, right? Mm-hmm. But regardless, right, interest rates most times don't reflect directly as soon as the rate drop happens. What I do tell people is be prepared. It takes 30 to 60 days to see that reflection in the market. Mm-hmm. But if you're someone who's in the right position, 30 to 60 days is the perfect timing because it allows you to get in the right pre-approved position where you can know how much your payment is, and it allows you to go shopping with Elda here and have enough time to make the right decision and not feel rushed.
Right. And I think what he just brought up, Elda, is a great point because right now, even though the inventory has gone up and there's more properties out there that are being available for our buyers, the transactions are not closing within a week, right? You're still taking some time. People are still, choosing the right property eventually now because there are many properties out there. They want to make sure that the best property fits. So what Mike is saying that, it usually takes between 30 to 60 days to actually go through the process. Do you agree with that process as a realtor?
Yes, absolutely, actually. Mm-hmm. So buying a home takes a couple of different steps, right? The first part is being prepared, being able to go with know how much you are qualified for. Mm-hmm. But after that, you still have to choose the criteria of the home and be able to go out there and find that right home. So that process can take as short as maybe 2 weeks all the way up to 2 to 3 months. Mm-hmm. So it's super important to start as soon as possible, especially with this idea that the interest rates could definitely drop. You want to make sure you start as soon as possible.
Right, because again, you don't want to miss that buzz because, just as equally as, and we all been a part of this in the last year and a half, 2 years, the interest rate could go up very quickly too. I mean, it takes longer to go down than to go up, right, Mike?
It slowly creeps up usually, but when it does, the drop happens, it's very flash in the moment. So things hit the fan really quickly. And when that does happen, not only are you inspired to go buy, but everybody else is. So the competition level kicks up. So my opinion is I've always been a person who jumps in beforehand. When people are not buying is the time to go and buy, because you're going to get a discount, and that discount is still there.
Yes,
in 60 days, when everyone's fighting over those houses, that discount might not exist at all. So if you're someone who only has that bare minimum to get into a house, that's going to make it a lot more difficult if you have to bring in an additional $10,000-$15,000 to compete with some of these people.
Yeah.
So getting in early is going to save you not only $15,000 of your own money, but you might be able to use the seller's $8,000 to $10,000 instead to help you get that easier.
And you know what, Mike, that's actually a perfect example, because I just had that situation happen to me this past week. Right now, it's still a buyer's market, right? So once we chose the property we wanted, I was able to cover 100% of the closing costs for my buyer. We were able to cover brokers' commissions and a lot of things, because we have that negotiating power, because there's a lot of homes available in the market right now, and people are still kind of waiting to see if the interest rates will drop or not.
Right.
So we're still having that power. We're still able to get all the costs for upfront financing covered, and that it's not going to be there as soon as the interest rates
Dries up
drop.
very quickly.
You know what?
Yeah.
One of the things that, Elda, you just hit on the nail with what you just said, that hasn't been an issue, is the buyer's broker's commission. All the sellers are paying it still. I mean, we've seen here in escrow, we've seen every single commission instruction that we send out, they're all 3% and 3%.
You're getting what you're asking for.
Back in the day, before all of this whole mess of, the lawsuit and everything that everybody was freaking out about, we used to see 3% for the sellers, 2% for the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
2.5% for the listing agent, 2.5% or 2%, or even 1 3/4. I mean, that negotiation was really hard, and a lot of the commissions were being split. Right now, we're seeing a 3 and 3 split. But if we get a buyer's frenzy, then all of a sudden it's gonna become an issue. And as a lender, Mike, that commission that needs to be handled,
covered,
it does take part of that closing funds that the buyer needs to come, right?
It 100% is going to eat into the money that you have to. If let's just say you have a realtor that's working with you and they're willing to do it for 2%. If you're going to a seller and they're going to give you 1%, that 1% that's not covered is coming out of the buyer's pocket now, and it's unfairly labeled as a lender's cost now, right? So now we as a lender have to adjust either our loan parameters, or sometimes you have to take a little bit higher of an interest rate, because that interest rate gives you enough space to now qualify or give that money to the sellers. And it's really going to be something that does pop up, and you're going to see a lot of times too with the new home build. I think it's going to hurt new home builders a lot. They're going to be, if you don't remember last time, they cut off commissions, and they went to raffle system last time, and they had 100 people in line, and they would give it to the first person that had cash available. So I think you're going to see that switch, and that those new home builds are the low-hanging fruit. They're very easy to acquire, and that's when you're going to have to work a little bit harder. Your realtor, not only your realtor, but you. So there's a couple different areas where it's going to affect people, but the bottom line is the buyer's money is going to get affected. And if you're someone who only has 3.5%, you're going to have a really tough time.
And Elda, you again, right? You said right now is the perfect time, because you, as the agent, are able to negotiate with the seller to get more incentives. So, like Mike is saying, don't wait if you want to buy, right? If you want to go ahead and purchase, you should be making the phone call right now to somebody like Mike and saying, hey, how much do I qualify for? And then once Mike qualifies you, then, hey, Elda, this is how much I qualify for. Can you find me a property that fits my needs from this? Because right now, like you said, you have the power to negotiate some of the closing costs and still covering a lot of the fees, right, Elda?
Yes, exactly. So this is going to affect primarily first-time home buyers.
Correct.
Those seem to be the group of clients that tend to need the most assistance with the upfront cost. So this is the time for them to be able to get the most covered, because again, we have the negotiating power at this moment. However, when the interest rates change, at that point, all of those commissions, all of those incentives to buy are not going to be there from the seller, because they're going to have too many options. They're going to have too many
15
options.
15 people in line.
50 people in line offering more than what the house house is really worth, which is in turn going to increase the prices of the homes as well.
Yes.
So I really think it's super important for the first-time home buyers, more than anyone, to be informed and be ready as soon as possible. And actually, I have some news on that.
Okay.
JC. I think we're going to be partnering up with Mike Orozco as well as other industry experts to bring to the home buyers as much knowledge as possible through webinars and seminars coming up here.
Yes.
Right.
So starting this September 16th at 5:30 p.m., we're going to do a webinar. That way everyone can join us from the comfort of their home, whether they're driving, whatever it is, just a quick join so they can understand the home buying process. Again, especially first-time home buyers.
Right.
They can understand the process from 1 through 10, A to Z, how simple it truly is. I know a lot of people really feel like it could be overwhelming. Do I have the savings? Do I have this? And, they tend to question it a lot. So I want to make sure I sit with them, make myself available, and bring in industry experts like yourselves. You are in a title company, JC, so
Right.
you have so much knowledge about the escrow portion of it. And of course, we can't have our transactions without a lender.
Right.
So this is going to be a team where we're going to put our heads together and bring this information to the client.
Exciting, very exciting.
Perfect.
And we hope to see you guys on the 16th. She's going to put the link out there, and we're going to promote it as much as we can. If you know anyone else that is looking or has questions, this is purely a question. Come and learn some tips, some tricks, some myths, and maybe you learn something that now you're in the right position to go and buy a house. So we'd love to see you guys.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to start providing that education factor, right? Because like you say, everybody is, listening to the news, and the news only kind of tell you whatever they want to hear, right? Or whatever they want to tell you. We know that the interest rate is going to go down. How much? We have no idea. How is this going to impact the market? We have no idea, because like Elda says, now all of a sudden we have, instead of having 5 buyers, now we have 25 buyers. That changes the whole scenario. And being prepared to purchase is the key, right? First-time homeowners right now, they want to really get all the information. So I think by having this the first home buyer seminar on the 16th, I think via webinar is also a great thing, because like you said, it just gives them the comfort to be in their home. They could be listening. And it's not like, we're going to put you in a room, we're going to lock the door, and then now you have to buy. No, it's like, no, it's just really to add
information. I want to make sure they're ready. If
come in your pajamas if you have to.
That's right.
If this is a time for them, I would hate for them to miss the opportunity. So
Correct.
I'm kind of just jumping on and say, hey, let's get you ready. We're going to be here available for you for any questions. So it's super important. I really think that being able to get those upfront costs for first-time home buyers is extremely imperative.
Right. The other thing is that I know that here we are, like I said, September the 10th, right? Then we have October, November, December, which is usually the slowest time for real estate, right? Because, the holidays come, nobody wants to move during the holidays. I always tell my agents and my buyers, I said, that's the perfect time to buy.
I was going to say, it's usually my favorite time of year. I tell people there's nothing better than getting a house for Christmas.
Yes.
Honestly. The competition's less. You remember, and when you do purchase a home, once you close, you get a free month off, right? They have to process you. You get 30 days off. So closing in December and having all of December with no mortgage payment is nothing to be mad about. It does help out Christmas a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
For me,
always stay on top of it.
It tends to be busier for me, because I do believe that is the period of time where you're going to get a better deal. So I really stress that to my buyers. And for me, I feel like it's a busy time for sure.
Right. And we're talking about, closing in October, November, December, but it's like Mike said, because you're starting today the process of, do I qualify?
It's not just hey, I'm ready to go buy a house. I saw this one on Zillow, because you might not even qualify for this $500,000 house you've seen. You may not. And it's better to know where you're going to be standing, know what your monthly payment's going to be, know what these costs are going to be, and know that you're in that right position, because now you have no fear, no anxiety, nothing that's going to hold you back from making the correct decision and keeping you locked into renting for another 12 months.
Right. And I guess a very valid question right now, which I'm pretty sure we're going to talk and a little bit dive more into detail on the seminar that we'll be having on the 16th, is what's the difference between getting pre-approved to pre-qualified and to fully approved?
Yes.
So, just a little brief, so like that people could be like, you know what?
So pre-qualified is, hey, you've given somebody your information, they know that you're in the right spot. Here's a pre-approval letter. You're not necessarily underwritten. Right? Pre-qualified for me is I get full documentation. I submit your information to my loan company that we're going to go with. I fully underwrite you, credit pool, ensure that there will be no issues when we get into underwriting, because it's very easy to send out a pre-approval letter and get a contract, right? But once you're in contract, you have timelines and dates that need to be met, and if those aren't met, it can cost you financially. So you want to have the right lender to stay on top of these dates, and if you have issues with underwriting or if your loan can't go through, it's a very big deal. So I don't like to do this work up front and not see the results. So I like to make sure that everything is done properly.
Right. And Elda, you as a realtor, how important is to work with a lender that's telling you, I pre-approve these people. These people are good to go unless they go and buy a brand new car or unless they go get a new line of credit. Everything should be fine, because now you are literally, like Mike said, you are writing those contracts and saying, hey, this is how much money or this is how much home they could afford. And then later on for them to come in and says, well, you know, we didn't really do a full you know, study of what
that happens too, right? Because things pop up.
So as a realtor, how important is to have that partnership that says, hey, these people they can purchase a home?
Absolutely important, and that's actually the only partners that I've been able to deal with. To be honest, I don't really go with someone that doesn't fully pre-approve them and pre-qualify them correctly, because it could turn into a situation where you love the home. We went through the negotiation process. We got you all these amazing deals, and all of a sudden you can't get the house because the loan was not really ready to go the way it should have been. So whenever I refer my clients to a lender, it's because I've selected the right lender. I know how they work. Exactly why I have Mike Orozco joining us for our fabulous seminar, because we want to make sure that's not an issue. And again, if every now and then situations will happen where the buyer unfortunately will make a mistake and maybe go get the line of credit or things like that, but that's different than not being originally qualified correctly.
Right, because I see right now that at least in our escrow side, we have seen, and I know that Elda's gonna probably talk a little bit more about this, that we have seen that a lot of the cancellations that come across my escrow officer desk is because, you know, either we didn't qualify after the fact, or right now what I'm seeing is that the seller is not willing to, you know, fix the property because of the appraisal conditions, right? And I know that, Elda, you as a realtor, you have to unfortunately negotiate sometimes those, you know, scenarios where the appraiser comes in and says, hey, we need this window to be fixed. We need the water heater to be strapped. And then sometimes the seller like, the property's being sold as is. And like, no, it's never sold as is. There's certain requirements that need to be done, and you have to negotiate that after the fact, right?
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to have to do the process correctly, to start in the right place. And once you've selected the realtor you're working with, it's so important to select the right lender, right? Once we have the lender, the paperwork all ready to go, then we will move on to things like the inspection and the appraisal, and those are more negotiations. So imagine all this hard work and emotional work for the buyer too, right? So you put all of this effort in, at the end, the loan is not ready. So that is extremely important to, again, have somebody to guide you from A to Z on this home ownership process, select the right people that are going to fight for you, have your back, look for your best interest, and know what they're doing. I mean, Mike has over 13 years of experience. So I think it's important, right, to choose the right person.
Right. Now, Mike, with what Elda just said, how important is for you to have a good business partner as a realtor to understand?
It's extremely important.
Please.
Honestly, sorry to cut you off. It's extremely important because the realtor is going to be the main piece of negotiation between the seller and the buyers, right? And unfortunately, as a lender, we don't get to, actually I don't want to, we don't get to talk to those people, right? Leave that to the realtor, because there's a lot of emotion that goes into selling your house and buying a house, right? Like you said, they might want something removed that the seller put in that the seller's like has a very tough time doing. So there's a lot of pieces to it, but when you have a realtor that understands the game like Elda does and knows negotiation, is not afraid to ask for those things, which is very tough. And that's something Elda's very good at, is being able to ask for those things without fear, right? Because you can only get what you ask for.
Correct.
And that's a lot of time you'll have realtors who are afraid to ask for X amount of money or extra repairs because they don't want to anger anybody on that side.
Right.
It's part of your job, unfortunately. And that's where I feel having the right partners, both sides, are going to make sure that you are covered, your money is covered, and any negativity or bad things that could happen is all negotiated and discussed beforehand with you.
And the relationship between the lender and the realtor is extremely important too, right? Because we're communicating. We know what stage the loan is on, or what stage of the home buying process we are on. So we're both on the same page. You don't want the lender to not be aware that we're already in contract and the lender doesn't know, or vice versa. So that relationship and the communication between us is extremely important too. It's very helpful for the buyer, because then they can ask a question to me and maybe about the loan, and I'll be informed. Vice versa. They can ask him anything about my process, and then Mike will know because we're in touch. So that's important.
And I'm going to bring up a point, because I think that it happens more often than we want to. I know that the lender needs to know what the real estate process is being like. Likewise, the realtor needs to know what the lender process is like, so like that we keep inform our buyer. How important is for everybody to stay in their lane? Because I know that you've been in the industry for 13 years, and you have that one agent that pretends to be a loan officer, and really not. Well, let's be honest. They say too much. They talk too much without really knowing the whole process. And now we're in a bigger bind. How important is for everybody to stay in their lane?
It's important, and there's boundaries, right? And as a professional in this industry, you kind of learn those over time, right? But knowing your boundaries, a better way to say that is, don't negotiate my terms, is in my opinion. I as a lender, it's very detrimental to your buyer as a realtor to speak on the terms of a lender. Yes, you may have a million years of experience as a realtor, but lending rules change all the time, right? And people are very quick to say, oh, well, this is happening this a year or two ago. That might have been real. That is not the case now. Like buy downs, right? There's a lot of talk about use this to buy down your rate. It's a cost to the buyer or a cost to the seller. So if the seller's not going to cover it, we as a lender can cover it. Doesn't mean it doesn't cost me any money, because it does cost the seller money, it does cost the buyer money. So we can give people 1% buy downs all day. Is it a benefit to some clients? Yes or no. But as a realtor, don't say, oh, we're going to do a 1% buy down, your rate's going to start with a 4, and it's easy. Because there are some clients don't need it, some clients don't want it, some sellers won't pay it. So there's ways to stay in your lane, and that's just an example. But
so don't ask me for interest rate, right?
Don't ask numbers to realtors, actually.
I can't tell you what the interest rate is, because it's subject to change. It's subject to the loan you chose. It's subject to your credit score. It's subject to so many things. And so I know that a lot of people think that the realtors, should know all of that. And even if we have a good idea, that wouldn't be my lane.
But
I have to connect you to
But Elda, my compadre told me that the interest rate that I'm getting is not a good interest rate. Elda, is the interest rate that I'm getting a good interest rate? And I know that conversations happens from the buyer to the realtor all the time. And I love the fact, and it really shocks me that you've only been doing this for 2 years, but you already know what your role is in the transaction. And it's refreshing to find a young professional real estate agent that understands this is my role, and I am going to execute it to the best of my ability. And I'm going to let everybody else do what they're supposed to be doing. Because again,
doing a disservice in case I, misquote or anything like that. And my goal here is for the information to be as factual as possible. And as exact, because it can vary from Tom to, Mary or Jerry.
You can offend somebody very quickly by telling them one thing and giving them another thing. So.
And I love the fact that you brought up the point about the buy downs. Everybody is talking about buy downs. Everybody's talking about down payment assistance. Sometimes if we do not understand what the down payment assistance or what the buy down is really going to affect us, it might be something that we do not need at the moment. But it sounds great. Hey, I'm going to buy down your interest rate. But what is the process to get that done, right?
And to dig back into home builders, right? This is 100% how they get you this 4% interest rate that everyone's in love with, right? They own the company that does the lending, that does the building, that does the selling. So your balcony that maybe cost $8,000 to $10,000 now costs $25,000, but you're getting a 4% rate. Right. And that I wish very much that, you know, as a realtor, it's very hard to pull people away from a new build because there's X amount of work that needs to be done. Right. Dig into their contract and see. There's a lot of things that can hurt a first-time home buyer of new build. You know that their earnest money goes hard very quickly.
Yes.
Their deposit is gone within a week usually. If they want to back out, good luck, you know. So there's a lot of little rules and things that first-time buyers can get in trouble with new builds, but the new car smell and the low interest rate is very appealing. Always take another chance and look at a resale because there's a lot more value. And most homes in Las Vegas are not older than 2000.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of homes that are built after 2015 still. So you can get a relatively new house with the same perks and a much better payment loan terms, honestly.
Listen, Mike, just the fact that you could buy a little bit older home with a lot more land that you're not
with a backyard,
you know, with a little bit more backyard that you're not really, you know, confined to a very small space, because let's be honest, right now the builders, they are really stretching the amount of homes that they're putting into certain lots, and that becomes, you know, something that maybe it's an issue for people, right? I mean, Elda, how many times do you have a buyer that's like, you know what, I want something with a pretty decent backyard, and when you start looking, you're like, man, those are kind of like, they're very rare to find now with big backyards, right?
They're rare, and when you do find them, they're going to be some of the older homes, which is it's tough, like the shiny new car versus an older home. But that is actually a scenario. If my buyers ever need to see a new build, I can absolutely walk them through them. I do due diligence to make sure I'm doing comps and things like that, and a lot more often than not, it's 100% right. The comps nearby are 30. My last buyer, I was able to find them same model for less than 37,000.
Wow.
So I definitely do my due diligence, and as long as they're okay getting a 1 year older, maybe 2 years older home, which I think it's absolutely worth it as long as the condition's good. Again, it's really what the buyer wants, but ultimately it's hard to find a new build that makes the best sense for a new first-time home buyer. Not that it's impossible, but you know, that's what we're here for, right? We're gonna make sure that you're getting the right lending. We're gonna make sure that the contracts look good and that the comps look good, and you're not overpaying for that shiny new car way too much. Right.
No, and I think that's important because, again, right, buyers, especially new home buyers, they don't know what they don't know. You know, and they're just emotional, right? They're like, oh my God, you know, we this is my first home and it's going to be my forever home. And I'm sorry to break it to you guys, but you never find your forever home, because you're always going to have things that in life that's going to make you realize that maybe at this point, this house is way too big and I need to resell it and I need to downsize it, or you're having a kid and you need to upgrade and everything. My next question is, and I have to toot my own horn here, is we know that the relationship between the lender and the realtor is key. How important is to have the right title company as well helping in the transaction? Because I know that you as the lender mostly deal with the escrow officers, your underwriters, you know, your processors, they deal with the escrow company. And sometimes, you know, let's be honest, escrow companies could become a little bit difficult or drop the ball, and that just ruins the transaction, right?
It puts a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, because title, escrow, they are the neutral party between buyer, seller, realtor, lender, right? But they give, I guess, a settlement sheet at the end of the transaction. They give a settlement sheet that goes over the details financially, and it's like a running invoice for the buyer. Those numbers are very easy to do and difficult to do at the same time, because as a title person, you have to be able to order certain items on time, make sure that there's no liens, make sure that the clients who are purchasing this house are getting a house that's clean and free of any issues. Unfortunately, some title companies like to sit back and then wait until the last week or two to order certain items or to get certain things done, and it can affect the transaction. So when you have the proper title partner, they can ensure that everything is done properly. And one of the bigger things right now is title fraud, right? Wire fraud, where people are getting phished and told to send X amount of money to a different account. If you have the proper title person, that will never be an issue, because they will burn it into your head that this is the one wire sheet you have. You will not need another one, and these numbers will not need to be sent till the end of the transaction. So, having the right title company is very important for a bunch of reasons, but specifically for covering the wire fraud and making sure that your numbers are done correctly at the end of the transaction.
And for me, as the realtor, partnering up with and choosing the right title company makes a big deal in how smooth the transaction goes for the client too. So if we're opening escrow today, for example, but my title company is not available, then without the title company, we can't even begin that process.
Right.
If they delay too much or they're not sending the disclosures, sending anything that needs to be sent over to the buyer, it definitely delays and all the rest of the due diligence periods that we have to follow.
Yes, those timelines, yes.
Yes, and I love that you mentioned that, because again, people don't realize, and buyers probably don't realize. And again, remember, September 16th, we will be having a first-time home buyer seminar. We're going to get in a lot more details about what the timeframes are.
Yes.
But people don't realize that once the offer has been accepted, the time clock starts.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And those key dates are so important, because you miss one of those dates, now you're writing addendums, now you're getting extensions, and it becomes more like paper trail.
Yes.
And negotiation too. So it makes everything very rocky, the process. The
Even
home
financial
buyer.
penalties potentially, you know what I mean? So
financial penalties
there's a
for
lot
not
to it.
closing on time. And so that's where the title company really plays a big role.
Right. The other thing is, you know, and again, we're going to get more into details on September 16th, but, you know, Mike, I just got a call from my lender and they're locking the rate. What does that mean, right? Yeah. And they're like, I don't get that. But, you know, there is a reason why you guys call it locking the rate, but that period of time is also period of time.
Yes, yes. And typical interest rate is locked for 30 days. There's also different options that lock for less or more time, right? But if we go into contract, let's just say the 1st and we plan on closing the 30th, as a lender, we're typically going to be locking. For me, right, we can't legally lock until you have a property in contract. Right. I can't lock you while you're looking. I need an address. So once you have that address, right, that's typically once that contract's accepted. 30 days is the general time it takes. We can have the process done in around 20 days and be sitting on our hands, but you have to be cooperative as a buyer. You have to answer emails. You have to answer text messages. We're going to ask for documentation, and remember, you're borrowing $500,000, right? If you borrowed this from your mother, you would have to sign something at least, right? So we're going to ask for documentation to ensure that you can properly qualify for this house and pay this back over time. And as long as we can show that, there's very little issues with the process.
And let's talk real estate talk.
Yeah.
We have a 30-day escrow, but in legality, we only have 21 working days because weekends we can't do nothing.
As a loan, business days only.
Right, and people don't understand that, Mike, because, you know, I get a lot of scenarios where my escrow officers call me and said, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of this seller and we need, you know, the seller's documents. And I'm like, what do you mean the seller's document? Well, you know, they have a corporation and we need to get the corporation documents, or they have a trust and we need to get the trust documents, or as simple as we can't get the HOA demand. And those dates are really important because we figure out, you know, the fees based on those payouts.
Yes.
So when we say we only really have 21 working days, if the buyer delays for 1 or 2 days to respond, it really puts us 3 days behind on the end of the transaction, right?
I say, hey, we need this document, or you sent us all of the pages to your bank statement except for one. Can you give me that? And we send it on a Friday and they respond on a Monday. We're losing 2 business days out of that. And then you don't realize how much that affects you until I'm like, hey, we have 3 days to close now. You ready?
Yes.
And the fact that the realtor works 24/7 that doesn't mean the rest of the companies will. It takes a whole team to be able to help the buyer. But ultimately, the steps for a home buyer to purchase a home, they're easy for them as long as they're following our guide, right?
And that's where the trusting your partners comes in, right? Where maybe you're not willing to send documentation because you're not sure how it's going to be used. When you send documentation to a lender, a professional, a company, we have so many guidelines to protect our clients from any fraud, any phishing, any wire, all these things that have been put in place to ensure your safety. So if you are working with somebody you do trust, send them the documentation they're asking for properly, and it'll save you guys days, hours, and maybe money. Because if you, like you said, if you go past that 30-day lock, we have to extend your lock, and that does cost money, right? Because we're past the timeline. So staying on top of timelines is very important, and remember, it's very quick. So in 30 days, there's a lot of things flowing around. You're gonna wanna bounce any questions, any fears, any anxieties off of any one of us, title, lender, realtor, whoever it is. And we've been doing this long enough that we can say, hey, breathe. You know, it's not the end of the world. This is just a disclosure. Don't worry about it. You know?
Right.
Yeah, that's why choosing the right team to begin with is so imperative, right? Yes. You're choosing the right realtor, you're choosing the right lender. Now all the document that comes with it, you know it's coming from the right source. You know they're your best interest at hand.
Listen, I've had many conversations with buyers where they're like, we need to wire this information, but I just don't feel comfortable sending a wire. And I said, look, for us to open an escrow, we really don't need a wire. We just need the funds. Why don't we go back to the good old where you write a check, right? Because that check is not going to be wire front, right? You're going to write a check so you could get the earnest deposit. Unfortunately, when it comes to the closing, we could not accept a personal check or a cashier's check because it takes our bank 7 to 10 days to clear it, and we don't have that time frame. So when we as the title company send out instructions on this is your wiring instructions, and then all of a sudden you receive another email saying, hey, the wire instructions haven't changed. I always tell people, please pick up the phone, call your agent, call your lender, or even call us to make sure. Because unfortunately, something that it is happening right now, and it's horrible. But at the same token, you know what? It's just part of it, and you have to be very cautious, right?
Yes,
and
always.
And the time frames are key. Elda, when you have an offer accepted, within how much time the earnest deposit needs to be deposited in escrow?
Yes.
2 to 3 days max.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. We only have 2 to 3 days, and if you open escrow on a Friday night, then you have Monday morning, and that's it.
Right, because in that scenario, weekends count.
Yes. For realtors, well, I guess for realtors, but not everything. Realtors, business days do not matter.
Yes, and it's important because sometimes, again, the buyers realize, oh, you know what? I'll take it on Mondays. Like, no, we need to wire this as
even holidays.
Yes, you know, even holidays do matter because time frame for you real estate agents, every day matters. Weekends, holidays, and everything. For the rest of us, there are limitations on the days that we work, but at the same token, if we all just work together, we get things done, right?
Exactly.
Because then all of a sudden, if the earnest deposit is not there on time, then now again, you write in an addendum saying, well, we need another 24 hours, and then the lender saying, well, how come they didn't deposit the earnest deposit, right? Exactly. And then there's a lot of questions that get added. So Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, you're gonna need to realize that when agents or the real estate professional ask you for things, they're asking you because we need them, not because we just want to hold on to them.
We're your team, so our job is to all equally try to get you to the finish line together, right?
Correct.
So that's
and I do like to
do.
go over those timelines at the beginning, but it's also sometimes a little easier if we just know the timelines.
Yes.
As long as they're following our instructions, we can keep track of those timelines.
Yes.
We can make sure they feel as at ease, you know? So we do try to take those burdens off, but the trust, that's where trust comes in, right?
So, and that's wonderful. And you know what, again, I love the fact that you guys are taking the time from your busy schedule to come down here and do the podcast. But the most important thing out of today, I think, is showing our consumers, our first-time home buyers, that you guys are well prepared, you guys are professionals, and that's the reason why Elda decided to put a first-time home buyer seminar. So again, give us a little bit of more information on what that home buyer seminar is going to be, you know, the time, the date, and kind of like how much more detail we're going to get into, because we don't want to bore people the other, but it's important for them to realize and to know all the information. So Elda, please.
Thank you. Yes, for me, it's really important for my buyers to know as much as they can, right? Information is power. So my goal is to provide information in the simplest way possible so that they don't feel worried, scared, overwhelmed with the home buying process to begin. After that, then we'll determine if it's the right time for you, if your finances fit, right? So we'll definitely be speaking with Mike here. But I think for me, it was really important to bring this information to our buyers as soon as possible, especially because of that conversations about the interest rate potentially going down. I would hate for anybody to miss out on that opportunity if they were ready, right? So bringing this to them as soon as possible. It's going to be a webinar, super easy to join. So there's no reason why you couldn't make it. You got off of work late. No, it's available over the phone. We'll send over a link for them to register. And as soon as they register, they'll be able to get the official webinar link. We're going to do it through Google Meets, which is a free application. Nobody has to pay extra. Most of our phones have it regardless. It's super easy to use. And we're going to make ourselves available for any questions, but ultimately give them the 10 basic steps of purchasing a home. They're going to realize how easy it truly is, right? And from here, what we hope to accomplish is do it on a monthly basis for those that couldn't make it the first time, or expand on it depending on what the questions they have.
Correct.
We'll then discuss it in the following seminar as well, and just make yourselves available, right? In reality, the home buying process is very easy, so I want to make sure I share that with them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Mike, in your expertise as a mortgage broker, how important is for a first-time home buyer to really attend to something like this?
Well, actually, there's also, as part of the lending, there's a mandatory home counseling that you're going to have to do for your loan. So it's always good to have some upfront knowledge, right, when you're going into these. But this, our seminars, webinar is more to teach you the right steps to go into purchasing a house, right? I think it's very important for people who are even thinking or considering it to know what the game plan is.
Right.
Maybe you are someone who thinks you can qualify, but you're not sure about your credit. Let me analyze your credit and see, hey, you know what, you're actually in the perfect spot, or you know what, work on this, work on that, and we'll see you in 6 months, we're ready to go. And it's better to know, hey, I have to work on A and B, and then I can get to C, which is buying a house, for 3 to 6 months up front. Now allows you to work on it or save or get yourself in the right spot, and now walk to Elda saying, hey, let's move. I got my money saved. I know where my payment's going to be. I know the right house price I'm going to go look at. I've been watching them online for a little while. Let's go make a move. And the whole transaction from negotiating to moving will just be so much smoother.
Right. Because let's be honest, it's a totally different scenario when you don't know what you don't know, and then you just go and confide on the realtor and you're just flying blind.
You will be nervous, I promise you that.
Yes. And we're trying to avoid that. So again, September the 16th, 5:30 is going to be a webinar. We're all going to be on there to go ahead and provide you answers to your questions. Also, Elda is going to be, promoting this, and we're all going to be promoting our social media, but it's really important for you guys to understand that this is an educational thing. We want to make sure that you get the education, because next week, every monkey that has a social media out there is going to be bombarding you with all kinds of information, and we want to make sure you have the right information, right? So Elda, again, how can somebody register to this event if they want to?
We're going to have an invitation posted in our social media with a link.
Perfect.
This link allows them to register to receive the formal webinar link.
Okay.
So it makes it very secure. And again, it's also something that you can share. We would really appreciate if you share it with people that you think will benefit from this. Again, this is free information, just educational for the purpose of helping those people that are doubtful or that are considering but are not certain.
We all know somebody who may be looking to buy, right?
Yeah.
So if you know somebody, if you've been renting for too long and you're like, hey, maybe I should stop, giving
my money
it's
away.
One of those times. It's pure, like you said, purely informational.
Right.
We're all here to get you to the next step, which is, somewhere near owning a home.
Nice. Very cool. Well, you're not going to believe this, but the time has flown by.
Really?
It is 10:58 in the
wow,
morning.
it's a quick hour.
It was a quick hour. So I always tell my guests, I say, you know what, when we talk and we have great topics, the hour flies by. So I really want to appreciate you guys both for taking the time for your busy schedule to come down here and talk. Again, Elda, if you want to give me your name, the company you work for, how people could get a hold of you. If you want to give them your social media, I say follow her on social media. Her social media is really cool as well. Please go ahead and do so, and then we'll go with Mike. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, so my name is Elda Monares. My phone number is 702-400-2950. That's where you can reach me via text or a call. Those are my favorite ways of communication. But of course, I do have my social media, Elda_realtor. We'll be posting the invitation shortly. It'll have a QR code you can click on so that you can register. And then if you do want to share with me at least 2 people that are interested in something like this, I will be more than happy to reach out to them. All of that is in the registration link. And then to log in the day of the event is super easy. Click and log in.
Perfect. Perfect. Mike, again, if you want to give me your contact info, please.
My name is Michael Orozco. I'm a mortgage broker here with Empire Mortgage. My Instagram is @MikeOMortgage. And then, I'm right here off of 215 in Sunset, right near IKEA. So if you ever wanted to meet in person,
you're right across the street from us.
I feel like numbers are a lot easier to show in person.
Yeah, very cool. Hey, I really appreciate it. Well, you guys know me. My name is JC Castillo. I am here with Equity Title. And again, if you're looking to buy and sell, please attend. Actually, if you're looking as a first-time home buyer, attend the event on the 17th. We're going to put more information in all of our social medias. My name is JC Castillo. You could get a hold of me at 702-416-4302, or you could follow me on social media at JC Castillo Rep. Again, JC Castillo Rep. I'm going to be here to provide you guys all the information that you always need. Again, I always tell people, if you're looking to buy or sell, remember, you, the homeowner or the home buyer, have the opportunity to choose the title company. So if you want great service, choose title, choose Equity Title. We're here to provide you a great service. We are going to be here sounding off. We're going to be here in the next show. We're going to be on Friday we're going to be talking about luxury, believe it or not. It's a totally different market.
Hey.
Yeah, it's a totally different market. So I'm going to be here. And please, in the meanwhile, behave, take care of each other. Watch the news, but watch really detail what's happening, because a lot of the news, it's just kind of to scare you.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that you have the right information. So Elda, Mike, I really appreciate you guys, and we'll be here showing you guys in the next show. All right, take care, and we'll see you guys each other. Bye.
Okay.